Arcane Archer has always been one of my favorite ways to play archers in D&D, but with Baldur's Gate 3, I've learned to really love the Gloomstalker Ranger Assassin, easily one of the more broken builds in the game. In this video today, I want to combine the might of the Gloomstalker Ranger with the awesome toolkit of the Arcane Archer, swapping out the high sneak attack damage of Assassin with the arcane shots from Fighter. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by upfronting the knowledge of my videos. So let me give you the breakdown of how we'll be approaching this class. You'll start out with 6 levels of Fighter as Arcane Archer. This will give us 3 arcane shots that deliver a fun utility to the build, as well as both of our feats. After that, we'll be taking 4 levels of Ranger with Gloomstalker to give us Dread Ambusher and another feat. That will give us some initiative as well as a free bit of damage when attacking in the first round of combat. We'll close the build out with our final 2 levels of Fighter, giving us yet another feat, as well as more arcane shots to take advantage of. You can find a link to this build in the description below if you'd like. There is an alternative path that you can take here by taking 6 Fighter, 3 Ranger, and then 3 Rogue Assassin, but I didn't want to rely on the critical hits off of Surprise of Assassin since we aren't favoring sneak attack in this build. But it is a way you can make this build instead. If that's all you wanted to know though, please feel free to shut the video down. As always, I want to be respectful of your time. You can jump to any part of this video that interests you the most using the chat prism with the timeline in the description. Before you head out, if you find the information in this video helpful, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe, as each one of those things helps me out in a huge way. Also, take a look at my Twitch linked in the comment and description, where I will be streaming my pure evil run using this build as well as plenty of other ones. Let's get started on my ultimate Arcane Stalker build in Baldur's Gate 3. Loading into the game, let's take a look at our character creation with the discussion about race. Now, this is a single player narrative game, as I always say, so please choose a race that makes sense for you and how you want to approach the game. There's no one race that's going to be any better at this, since we're going to be a ranged character. Usually stuff like half-orcs are really good because they get benefits to melee and what have you. But some ones that do kind of stand out to me that I will talk about are Wood Elves, both half and full elf, because they have Fleet of Foot. That increase to movement speed is always nice. Using any kind of halfling is very fun because of Lucky here. When you roll a 1 for an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can reroll the die and must use the new roll. While half-orcs don't get the benefit of savage attacks here, since we're focusing on ranged gameplay, Relentless Endurance is always cool, that when you reach 0 hit points, you regain 1 hit point. Dragonborn, their Dragon Breath attack is not going to be as great here, but having the ability to have a resistance to that corresponding element is always very fun. Dwarfs with the Dwagar are one of my favorite races here for an option, because they have real great cantrips that they'll be able to take advantage of, including an invisibility, which is going to be very useful for this character, and an enlarge that you can take advantage of as well. Drow are the best race in the game, and I don't know why you'd want to choose anything else other than it. It's the one I always like to default to. I'm not sure why you'd choose anything else. But the Gith is one I always like to really, I guess, impress upon, because it has so many unique narrative options, a lot of really good items that you get in the game, and it's a race that if you've not tried the game with you should definitely do it once. And tieflings do get a slew of very fun cantrips depending upon the subrace of tiefling that you end up deciding upon. Now, for our character class, we're of course going to be going with the Fighter. That is going to be our first 6 level dip, opening us up with Second Wind, which is going to be a scaling healing that's going to get better over time. Our fighting style here is going to be archery, because this is going to give us a +2 bonus to ranged weapon attacks. This is of course going to be huge since we are focusing on ranged weapons. For your background, as always here too, try to make a roleplay choice of how this character fits into the world and the roleplay you have in mind for them. Background decisions are going to dictate your inspirations. You'll get 4 inspirations, and those inspirations allow you to re-roll rolls that you otherwise would not be able to re-roll. So conversational checks and the like. So maybe you are, a noble or a noble son, whatever it is, outlander, or whatever kind of background that you want to fall into. My obvious min-max pick that I always like to recommend here is Insight and Persuasion, if you don't want to worry about the role play of it, because Persuasion, this gives you access to the skill Persuasion that a lot of classes don't get access to, and you get Insight, which is a great one that just kind of helps out overall with choosing things throughout the game. Into our abilities here, we're going to go for skills first. So here are our generic skills. We are an elf in this case, so we'll get Perception, and because of Guild Artisan, we have Persuasion and Insight. But I definitely recommend choosing one type of conversational skill if this is your face character, the character that is the main character when you're playing. Other recommendations here are stuff like athletics. We will eventually pick up stealth, but not right out the gate, and it's not going to be too crucial until we can pick it up. So don't worry about it just now. But athletics is a good one so that you can push and get and resist being pushed. That's always a fun one. Intimidation is kind of cool if you've never used intimidation. It's actually, intimidation and deception are two conversational skills that I don't think people use enough. Persuasion, I think, is the default one, and these two are very fun thematically depending on how you're approaching this character. Is it evil? Is it good? What have you? So those are our skills. Let's now talk about ability points. So when it comes to our ability points here, I'm going to discuss how dexterity and intelligence plays into this in the next section, but just to make this a little bit briefer here, let's go through adding this in. We've got dexterity. This is going to be our primary mode of damage because we are going to be using a bow. Constitution is going to be good here because we just want to have more health on the character. We are going to be a fighter, meaning we're going to have access to all the way up to heavy armor if we see fit. So you have plenty of other defensive options through armor and damage mitigation from armor class. And also, depending on what armor you choose, you'll get that increased to your AC. Now, intelligence is important for our arcane shots, and I'll talk about that again, like I said, in the next section. We're going to bring this up to 15, then put the +1 onto it so it comes to 16. These last 2 points I'm going to put into charisma. Now, I'm putting them into charisma because I'm assuming it's your face character, and this is going to help you just not have any penalties when it comes to using any of the conversational skills. Conversely, if this is maybe your character that you, or a build you want to use for Astarion or anyone like that, Astarion, you can just go ahead and put that into wisdom, which will help out all of your ranger spells. And you as well, if this is your face character, you can do that too. You can play around with your intelligence points and remove this and put more into wisdom and charisma if you want. I'm just trying to make this a little bit easier to approach. If you're more of a veteran of the series or of D&D and you understand how all of this works, I'd say play with these 3 stats or abilities in a way that makes sense for you. But let's now talk quickly about dexterity and intelligence and how it factors into this build. Jumping over here to the BG3 wiki, I want to quickly show off here our arcane shots. This is going to be the largest driving force, or at least how we're going to tap into the patch 8 abilities and what makes this a patch 8 build. Arcane shots are given to us at the level 3 of being a fighter. Now, arcane shots have a spell save DC that is associated with them, meaning the ability to basically resist the shot. It's 8 as a base plus your proficiency modifier. We know that that scales right to 2, 3, and 4 depending on what level you are, plus your intelligence modifier. So our current intelligence modifier is a +3. So that is going to give us, just out the gate, 11 without our proficiency modifier being factored in. Again, that's a 2, 3, or 4 depending on our level. What you need to know though about that spell save DC is all of these abilities, all of these arcane shots, almost all of them are split up into 2 separate sentences, and the separate sentences are what's important. Let's look at Enfeebling Arrow. Use necromantic magic to deal an additional 2d6 necrotic damage. That happens. That is a weapon attack. It's based off of your dexterity and the way that your weapon attack is going to be being done, right? It's a generic weapon attack capability. It's not a spell save DC. This is the spell save DC portion. So the target must succeed a saving throw or become feeble. So you could technically get away with 0 intelligence in this build and be totally fine. You just wouldn't be able to do stuff like this. Each target that must succeed a saving throw. There'll do an additional force damage and possibly applies. Oh, nope. That doesn't actually have, it's not. I think that actually is a saving throw in there. Target must succeed a saving throw or become blinded. So you see any of these things that say they must succeed a saving throw, that's applying to the spell save DC portion right here. So you could, again, completely bypass intelligence in your build, only focus on dexterity because that's the front of this. Use enchantment magic to deal an additional 2d6. So your bow does its damage, and then you will do the 2d6 psychic damage. You will use the bow's damage and then deal an additional 2d6 force damage. You'll do the bow's damage and an additional 2d6 necrotic. So you get where I'm getting at this. So divvy those ability points around as you see fit. I wanted to ensure that we can get the additional effects of these arrows, again, because this is a fun patch 8 build showcase, so I wanted to explain this so you understand how it works. Let's get started with leveling this build. We'll jump into our second level, unlocking Fighter level 2 to give us Action Surge. We'll be playing with that with some item options later in the game here, but this gives us an extra action to have plenty of fun with, especially in that initial round of combat to really open up some alpha striking. Into Fighter level 3, we will choose our subclass, which is going to be Arcane Archer, as we well know. That's going to give us our arcane shots. This arcane arrow here is what we'll be using to use those slots, and we'll get a cantrip. Guidance is just fine, just good. You'll be using it through the majority of conversations and such. I don't really like True Strike here because it costs an action to use and it then lasts for 2 turns. So it just is not a real great one. You can go with Light if you want. There's nothing wrong with this. It's going to be especially helpful in Act 2, but you're going to be level 3 by the time you get this. So you'll be waiting quite a bit to get the true use of it. Into our arcane shots. Now, please choose arcane shots that really you like and look cool and are fun for you and the way you want to play. But I'm going to go through the ones that I really like and why I like them. So the first one here is Grasping Arrow. It's really good. You deal 2 to 12 poison damage, but then the affected entity's movement speed is reduced by 10 feet, and it will take 2 to 12 slashing damage when it moves. On a miss, does not consume an arcane arrow. So what's nice here is there's no saving that this characters or these things are going to be doing against their spell save DC, and it does quite a considerable amount of damage. So I like this one quite a bit. I also really like Seeking Arrow. The reason I like this one is because it basically acts like a magic missile. Use divination magic to make your arrow seek a target. The arrow deals an additional 1 to 6 force damage. Remember, force is one of the least resisted damages in the game. Ignore that 1d6 to fire. It's because I'm wearing gloves right now. So that fire portion right there, just ignore that. But it also possibly puts Fairy Fire. This arrow always hits its target. It's just like Magic Missile, wherein it's just going to go ahead and slam into the target. I like this one a lot. Now, another one I like as well is Shadow Arrow here, because this does psychic damage, but it also blinds targets. I really enjoy Piercing Arrow because it just shoots things in a straight line. Each target must succeed a saving throw or be dealt an additional 1 to 6 piercing. So it does amp up a lot of piercing damage. But one of my other ones that I like to go really early with and stay with the majority of the playthrough is Bursting Arrow. Use evocation magic to make your arrow explode on impact and deal an additional 2 to 12 force damage to targets within 10 feet. So this is just an attack roll. There's no spell save DC applied to this. So it's just basically free force damage. I really, really enjoy this kit of initial arcane shots, but Banishment's really cool here. Charming is really fun. And the other one here of Enfeeble is great if you want to stack into a lot of necrotic damage. But those are all of our arcane shots. Let's jump now into level 4, where we won't be able to get anything fun from Fighter except for our feat. So let's talk about some featsies. So we are not at a shortage of feats in this build. We're going to have 4 feats to choose from. So let's go through some of the ones that I'm going to absolutely recommend and some of the ones that are quite nice. So the first real big one that I think is a standout one is Ability Improvement. This is, of course, going to be great for the build, and I like just putting 2 dexterity into it. It's not the first feat we're going to go with, though. The first feat we're probably going to go with here is Sharpshooter. Your ranged weapon attacks do not receive penalties from high ground rules. The reason I like relieving that is because it just allows you to play with the Z-axis in the game a lot better and not have to worry about shooting up against things and having a penalty incurred. Also, you get some additional damage out of it. And since we're going to get another feat in 2 levels, we can wait to get the dexterity bonus then. So that's why I like taking Sharpshooter first. And then I would go Ability Improvement here. That's why it's just a nice little way to approach things. My third feat is going to go to Alert, because by the time I get this, I'm going to be into Ranger. So I want that bonus to initiative. It's going to stack with my Ranger's bonus to initiative. So I'm going to get a +8 bonus to initiative, and I can't be surprised. This will ensure that I'm always pretty much going first, and I'll be able to take advantage of alpha striking things as fast as possible. The fourth feat point is a bit of a wild card. You can do a lot of really fun ones. Athlete's pretty cool here. It does increase your dexterity by 1. And why I like this is this enables you to not rely on the hag's hair to get your dexterity to 20 if you so wish. So if you have gone through the game, you're like, hey, I actually don't have the hag's hair, or I haven't gotten to Act 3 to do the special way to get more attributes, then you can go ahead and just use this to push your dexterity into 20. it's a great and easy way to do. Also, when you're prone, standing up uses less movement and jump distance increases by 50%. That doesn't seem like a huge thing, but jumping is a big part of this game. I also really like defensive duelist because we will be using finesse weapons, even though those finesse weapons are not going to be the way we're playing the character. What's nice about this is it gives us a defensive reaction that we can use. Since this character has no other reactions, we can use that defensive reaction to give us a little bit of, well, defense, right? So you use a reaction to add your proficiency bonus to your armor class, possibly causing the attack to miss. So I like this a lot. If you find that you are having your character up close and personal and you're taking a lot of damage, use this to mitigate some of that damage you're taking in. But you could even go with something like mobile here. Movement speed increase in difficult terrain doesn't slow you down. If you're making a melee attack, you don't provoke opportunity attacks from your target. That latter part's not going to be as huge since we are not doing that. We're not attacking, but you could go with a medium armor master. You could go with anything else here. Lucky is a real fun one that a lot of people love. Savage attacker, keep in mind here, this is not going to benefit the character because it says melee weapon attacks. I just wanted to bring that up. And spell sniper is not important because nothing we're going to be using here. This is you learn a cantrip and the number you need to roll a critical hit with spells. Arcane shots are not spells, so you will not benefit from that. But tough, if you just want some additional hit points, pretty much choose whatever you want for that. You could even go dual wielder if you wanted, since we are going to dual wield weapons just to get the benefits from them. So this gives us an additional AC if you so wish. So our very first one here is going to be sharpshooter, and we're going to keep going through our leveling. Into level 5 now, we're going to be getting our extra attack, which is always going to be good, giving us a good damage spike. Into level 6 here, we're about to end Act 1, so we're going to get another feat, and that is going to be an ability improvement. We're going to put +2 there into dexterity. As we jump into our next level, though, we're at level 7. Now, you could go 8 levels into fighter, then 4 levels into ranger. The reason I've chosen not to do that is because I want to get the advantages of ranger online in the middle of Act 2 to help me with a lot of the harder fights that I'm going to encounter in Act 2, and it sets me up for a stronger Act 3. It's a personal preference. If you really want to just finish Ranger, then go into, finish Fighter, then go into Ranger, then by all means do so. But I'm assuming you're approaching this build by leveling the character up rather than just having a level 12 character. So our next step here is to go Ranger. Our favorite enemy can be whatever you want. We don't need to worry about this. Sanctified Stalker, because this is an Arcane Stalker build, you know, like there's no real rhyme or reason because none of these are going to be particularly good or have too much of an effect on the character. Keeper of the Veil is kind of nifty, but I'm just going to go Sanctified Stalker for Sacred Flame, but I'm never going to use. Now, Natural Explorer, on the other hand, is going to come down to what your party composition is like. Is this the character that you want to pick locks for you? Well, then grab Urban Tracker. That's going to be nice because this is going to give you proficiency in sleight of hand. You'll be able to pick locks, disarm traps. If you already have a dedicated character that can do that, maybe skip over this and focus on one of these. Wasteland Wanderer, Fire or Poison are really good because these are 2 of the most prevalent damage types in the game. I would probably say go Poison. You can't go wrong with Fire though, because you're going to deal with plenty of fire attacks and exploding barrels and fireballs and all sorts of stuff. I just find there's a lot of annoying poison traps in the game, and just being resistant to it is a personal thing that I like. Now for our skill proficiency, we're going to choose Stealth. My character already has Stealth because I'm a Wood Elf on this specific one, but Stealth here is going to be really nice because we're going to use this for a lot of overlapping effects, and we didn't get access to this at the beginning, remember, because we were a fighter. So we would choose that here as Ranger. Ranger can choose Stealth in this section, and if you wanted to go again with all the pickpocketing capabilities, you choose Sleight of Hand from that Natural Explorer portion. But that is our Ranger. Let's go ahead and press accept there and push forward into level 2 Ranger. Well, we'll choose some spells. Now spells here, don't focus on them as big portions of the build, right? We want to focus on them more as something that's going to help us out. So utility stuff like Long Strider, assuming you've got no one else in the party that can cast Long Strider, there you go. Speak with Animals. Again, you assuming you have no one else in the party that can cast it, go ahead. But I also really like Hunter's Mark, because we're not really jammed up with reasons to have concentration, and this just delivers more damage to targets for us, and every time we kill a target that has Hunter's Mark, we get a free cast of it. So I like Hunter's Mark quite a bit in this build. For our fighting style here, we already have archery, so we're going to pick up defense. Dueling, 2-weapon fighting you could go with if you wanted, but we're not really worrying about the melee portion. If you do want to do melee with this build, by all means go for it. But defense just gives us more AC since we're already going to be wearing armor. Accept that and move on to level 3, where we're going to choose our subclass, and it is going to be Gloomstalker. Another spell here, again, I'll just choose Speak with Animals. I'll assume no one else has it. Subclass here. So this is the big meat and potatoes. Is that the term I'm going to stick with? Sure. Dread Ambusher. So now we get +3 bonus to our initiative. We're about to get alert next level, so that's going to be +8. But on the first turn of combat, your movement speed is increased by 10, and you make an attack that deals an additional 1d8 damage. That can be in either Dread Ambusher range or Dread Ambusher melee. So we're going to take advantage, obviously, of the range portion. We're also going to get Dread Ambusher hide, which is the same thing that Rogue gets, where they can use a bonus action to go into hide. And we get Umbral Shroud, which is a free invisible. Wrap yourself in shadows to become invisible if you are obscured. So you have to be somewhat in low light. We get access to all those things and then disguise self if we so wish. So it's a great initial kit, and it's going to really help amp up our damage, give us a lot of alpha strike capability, and we're going to have a lot of fun with it. Into level 4 here, we're going to grab our new feat. It's going to be alert, like I said, because we're going to stack up that bonus towards initiative. And then we're going to jump into level 11 for our character and switch back into fighter. This is when we're going to deal with a lot more physical immunity in the game. We're level 11. We're probably now ending Act 2, coming into Act 3. And that's why I like this route, because we're now going to get Magic Arrow. All of your range attacks are considered magical to overcome resistance, and Curving Shot. When you miss with any magical range attack, which now all of them are, use a bonus action to attack the next closest target with the same attack. So you can just keep any arcane shot or any just generic weapon shot active. We also get an additional set of arcane arrows and one more arcane shot. This is when I would take Shadow Arrow if I didn't before, or maybe even Piercing Arrow if I wanted to do that. But I like the fact that I can try to blind things. It makes it fun to just try to add more stuff to the toolkit. And then we go ahead and take that and get our last level here. And for me, it's going to be Defensive Duelist. I like this one quite a bit. So that's the leveling for this. Let's now talk about the gear options that we've got. Now I have pretty much every single item I need for this build, minus 2 real big crucial ones. There are maybe 3. There's 3 I'm about to show off. The first one here is an item that I really like. You'll get in Act 1, the Knife of the Undermountain King. Reduce the number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking by 1. You'll read this on a lot of items, and this does say this is a melee item, right? Well, this will apply to our ranged attacks. So right now, we have to roll a 20 to get a critical hit, right? A crit. Well, with this weapon equipped, our ranged attacks will now crit on a 19 and a 20. So we're going to stack as much crit as we can with this build. Another one here is the Surgeon's Subjugation Amulet. You'll get this in Act 2 from all the brothers. When scoring a critical hit on a humanoid, the wearer can paralyze the target for 2 turns, which is absolutely lovely. And then the Caustic Band. Your weapon attacks also deal 2 acid damage. It's not huge. It's just 2 extra damage, right? You might as well layer it up whenever you can. Now for our cloak here, I'm using the Shadeslayer cloak as the main one. But if you go with the, what is the name of that character? The Dark Origin, the Dark Urge, which is an origin, you'll want this, the Deathstalker Mantle. Once per turn, when you kill an enemy, shroud yourself in primeval darkness to become invisible for 2 turns. It's great. It's awesome. We can have tons of fun with this, and we can play into all of the many obscuring items that then give you benefits for being obscured, right? You're obscured. You now do this, you do that. So you can use this to your advantage. So these are just some of the items that I don't have. Let's talk about now the items I do have. And real quick before I show that off, if you did not know about this, the BG3 wiki has a section called equipment sets, not sex. Oh, whoa. And in this section, it shows off pretty much, hey, here's all the effects that stack to create a single set. And I just talked about obscured. Well, here's all the items that have somewhere in their text while obscured, anything that has to do with, obfuscation, it's all in this section right here. So I'll put a link to this in the description below. So if you want to play around with a lot of these, they're all right here that you can really play around with. I haven't done a lot of this. I've been focused more on the critical hits of the build and less the, again, obscuring portion, but it's a really fun mechanic that you can play with very early in the game too. Now, our conversation for the items I do have begins with weapons. And our weapon choice, of course, is going to come down to our range weapon. And the best one for me is going to be the Deadshot. The number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking is reduced by 1. This effect can stack. So that's the best thing here. But also the wielder doubles their proficiency bonus when rolling range attacks with this weapon unless they have disadvantage. Since we'll almost always be at advantage or at least not disadvantage, this is a pretty crucial thing because we're adding that proficiency bonus to range attacks, giving us plenty of punching power. So we've got this really turned on for us. And on top of it, there's a lot of really cool, you get this pretty early. I think it's the end of Act 2, very beginning of Act 3. So you'll get this thing online and it'll carry you through the rest of the game. But you'll be able to use any of the other bows that you'll find. You can get stuff, Long Arm of the Gur might be an actual in Act 2 one. But there's two great bows in the beginning of Act 1, like the hunting bow that gives you advantage on large creatures. Another one that will put a, not curse, but it's the opposite of bless. Bless gives a 1d4 benefit. This thing does a minus 1d4 to things. Bane, that's called. I think it's called Bane. It's a crossbow. So you could use any of those two all the way up until you get this and be just fine. That's what I did with this character, and this character was originally a Beastmaster Ranger. So this is a great bow that's going to really help out and stack up with a lot of things, including our melee weapons. Also, if you want a stat stick, it's Darkfire Shortbow, but we don't need to worry about this since we already have resistance to poison, so we can add, or fire, since we don't need to add that in if we don't want. This is an Act 2, so you could actually just use this all the way up until getting the Deadshot if you so wish. But our melee weapons are really going to be whatever you want them to be until we find the ones that are in Act 3 that are the best. There is one in Act 2 though, the Sword of Life Stealing. On a critical hit, the target takes extra 10 necrotic damage as long as it isn't a construct or an undead. You also gain 10 temp hit points, so you can rely on this if you so wish. But you have right here the Bloodthirst. This is going to go well with the Knife of the Undermountain King that we talked about a second ago. The number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking is reduced by 1. So this stacks with that knife, with this Deadshot. So now you can critical hit on a 19, an 18, and a 17. There's other items going to show you that are going to stack that even further. I think we're going to get this thing down to like 15 or 14. So there's plenty of critical strike capabilities with this build. But another really good one here is just simply the Crimson Mischief, which is you get in conjunction with Bloodthirst. So you can use these two in conjunction if you so wish. But another nice one as well is the Dolor Amorous, because when you land a critical hit, regardless of where that critical hit comes from, ranged or melee, with a weapon or unarmed attack, it deals an additional 7 damage. So it's just a flat 7 damage bonus, and all you need to do is just put it in the offhand. That's all. So we'll keep that there just to show it off in the actual combat section of this. But that's all of our weapons for this build. Let's now talk about our armor. So I'm using stuff that just looks cool to set things up, but initially in Act 1, the Covert Cowl is quite good. While obscure, the number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking is reduced by 1. This effect can stack, and Dex saving throw +1. Eventually in Act 3, you'll swap into Sarevok's Helm, because this just gives you that benefit always. The number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking is reduced by 1. No conditions. You also can't be frightened or afflicted with other emotion altering conditions. And since we're a fighter, we can wear all the way up to heavy armor. We might as well lean into it when we can. For our cloak, I talked about using the cloak from the Dark Urge. So go with that if you can. But this is a good substitute that you'll get in Act 3. While hiding the number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking is reduced by 1. So we said 17 before, right? Well, this helmet and this cloak brings us to all the way down to 15 or higher, get you a critical hit. Lovely. Other options though are Cloak of Displacement, which is just a blur that happens so it's harder to get hit. We're still pretty tanky, so you can see, right? We got 23 AC. We ain't too worried about it because of our chest piece. Our chest piece here is the Armor of Agility. Add your full Dex modifier to your armor class. Additionally, this armor does not impose disadvantage on stealth ability checks. You will get this in Act 3 if you are taking a good route, because only one character sells this and he could possibly die in Act 1. But other really good ones though are the Spider Silk Armor for bonus on advantage against stealth checks. You'll get that in Act 1. Another Act 3 one that's quite good is the bonus to initiatives, the Elegant Studded Leather Armor. So now we have a huge +10 to our initiative. We'll never not go first, and advantage on stealth checks, which is quite cool, and it looks really fun. You could use the Ballast Armor, but it is an area of effect breaking of immunity to piercing, and you have to be within 10 feet. So since we're an archer, it didn't really fit this build as well as the Armor of Agility did, so I went with that. For our gloves, you really have a ton of options. I'm using the Hell Dust gloves just because it looked cool for the aesthetic here, but something like the Gauntlets of Surging Accuracy are quite good. When you use Action Surge, which you would do initially before you did anything, you'd cast Action Surge, then you get 1d4 bonus to attack rolls for the rest of your turn. So you just get a really nice amount of damage coming in because you have just really good attack rolls, right? But some other really good ones here in Act 2, you'll get the Flawed Hell Dust gloves. They're going to give you just a flat bonus of 1 to 4 fire damage on all of your attacks. They're great. Same thing with the Hell Dust gloves. They give you a 1 to 4 fire damage, but we now also get a +1 bonus to our spell save DC, right? That's going to help out with all of our arcane shots, so we can take advantage of that. Legacy of the Masters is a flat 2 bonus to both attack and damage rolls, so that helps us out quite a bit as well. In Act 2, you can also get the Gloves of Archery, which are really good. You gain proficiency in longbows and shortbows, which we've got, but in addition, your range attacks deal an additional 2 damage. This is basically like choosing the archery weapon style or fighting style, but it stacks with it. So we already have that fighting style. So now our ranged weapon attacks will do an additional 4 damage in total between those two. So it's quite cool. Lastly, we have the Martial Exertion gloves, a little bit better on melee characters, but push past your physical limits, taking 6 to 36 damage to gain an additional attack and double your movement speed. So you can really get some more punching power out of this. Like if you wanted to use this and Action Surge, you would get a lot of attacks in one round. So this can be used to really cater certain punching if you need. For your boots, just use any kind of good mobility boots. The boots here of Disintegrating Night Stalkers are great for the Misty Step. The boots of Speed are great for click heals. I actually really like the Helldusk boots because they basically give you all the benefits of the Disintegrating Night Stalkers plus Hellcrawler. Hellcrawler is, again, the same thing as Misty Step, but it blows up whenever it lands. So I like that. It's just kind of a cool effect. And also when you fail a saving throw, you may use your reaction to succeed instead. So that gives you a little bit more defensive capabilities. We already talked about the Subjugation Amulet as being a really good one that we want to use, but just a Misty Step Amulet up until then is quite good, or even just the Moondrop Pendant. So when the wearer has 50% hit points or less, they don't provoke opportunity attacks, helping them break out of combat. For our rings here, I don't have the Callous Glow ring, the Coruscation, whatever the acid damage one is. But Ring of Free Action is pretty good to ignore the effects of difficult terrain and can't be paralyzed or restrained. Killer's Sweetheart is guaranteed a critical hit, which is awesome. The Crusher's Ring in Act 1 is great, just 10 foot movement increased speed. Whoa. Movement speed increased by 10 feet. Ring of Regeneration is always a great passive healing one. But that is all of our items. And you can socket different things in for the jewelry. For the most part, though, I wanted to go with jewelry that would augment the things that we don't have. A lot of classes get access to stuff that Ring of Free Action gives us. So this gives us that good mobility. So now let's go into some combat and show you how the strong potential of this class can really come to life. So jumping into combat, I don't know if it shows it, but yeah, I just did a 15 initiative roll. We are definitely going first. That means we have here Dread Ambusher. We're going to be able to have a lot of fun with that. We also have an Elixir of Viciousness. This is going to bring our capability to critical hit or crit down to 14, 15, depending on, if we're obscured and what have you. So right now our character is not obscured, so we're not going to be able to do that. I could just simply press this button and let them hide. I think right now, what we got? Yeah, I can move over here and try it real quick. We've got plenty of movement speed, right? So I could use that bonus action. Conversely, too, I can use Second Wind, Misty Step, or of course, Hunter's Mark. So I'm leaving some damage on the table here. Keep that in mind. So I'm just going to go ahead just to show that. Okay, we're hidden, we're obscured. We now have the benefit of Skilled Skullduggery from our cloak. And we can now use all of our many boom explosive spell and abilities. So let's go ahead and use Bursting Arrow, 20 to 37 damage. And let's do right there, seems fun. So that did all that. No crits there, but 23 damage, 8, 6, and 10 force damage across the board. And we also have our Dread Ambusher capability that we can use since we've gone before everyone, right? So first turn of combat, ambush a target. So we're going to do 19 to 33 with that. Let's finish maybe this person off. Critical hit at 45 damage. And we still have the extra attack from the last arcane shot we did. Well, let's just go ahead and do Seeking Arrow to show that off. 70% chance to hit there. Oh, there we go. 14 plus 2 damage and Fairy Fire. So now we just have free, oh man, what's it called? Free advantage. Now, I do also have these gauntlets on, and I've deliberately delayed this to show it. You'd want to use this at the very beginning, right? So let's go ahead and use Action Surge right now. We're going to get an additional action, but now we have 1d4 bonus to all of our attack rolls. So we can go ahead and use like grasping arrows over here, just to kind of show off all these arrows. Yeah, let's just go ahead. So we got the critical hit there. I think it did on the poison damage. No, this was. So we did 28 plus the 9 poison. And they unfortunately succeeded against the saving throw. So they did not get grasped, which would have done more. So we have that. I don't think the only one we haven't shown off is Shadow Arrow, which will do the same target. And that looks like it wouldn't have mattered. I don't think they failed the saving throw, so they would have been blinded from that as well. So that's all that. We still have a whole extra action here. Now, don't get me wrong. Is this stronger than the Ranger Gloomstalker? No, but I think it's quite comparable. I mean, we just did 55 damage to that target across one action, right? And the Ranger Gloomstalker relies on you knowing how to set up surprise and get surprise active. And if you don't know how to do that, it can be a very frustrating gameplay style. And I think the internet really drives home how disgusting the Ranger Gloomstalker is. And don't get me wrong, again, like I said, it is. I think this is a fun way to approach it without having to rely on surprising things, without having to really worry about trying to cheese and game surprise by using other aspects of the game or throwing a character into the mix so that you can get the surprise going. We just did a ton of damage, right? We killed 3 targets. I mean, I could have optimized all of that and actually killed more targets, but I wanted to show all these each individual little abilities. And we have all these arcane shots, which replenish, by the way, I forgot to mention, on a short rest. So we've got even more that we used every single one of our shots, right? So we have 7 shots in total. So we could have just used one that whole turn and just kind of gone purely off of our range attacks. We didn't use any of the additional damage here from Hunter's Mark, which we could have then layered into more and more targets as we pick them off. So you can see that you could optimize the approach to this and really get a lot out of the character. One thing to note too, with this one and Fairy Fire is really nice to be able to see those enemies that go invisible. There's only like 2 bosses that really benefit from it, but still, it's nice to be able to really have a tool for those. So go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. How would you change or do something different with this build? Would you go the Arcane Gloomstalker route of 6 fighter, 3 rogue, 3 ranger, and have the ability to do all that assassin surprise action? Or would you lean harder into the arcane shot stuff like I did here? Like I said, because we're not going so heavy into rogue levels, I felt like really jumping into the benefit of critical hits and everything like that would have kind of been a little wasted because we left a lot of damage on the table. This allows us to play more with the new arcane shots of patch 8. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.